The rain in the alley behind Bella Norte tasted like regret and mascara. Emma Hayes pressed her back against the brick wall, phone clutched in trembling hands, reading the same text message for the 5th time. The words blurred through tears, but she'd memorized them anyway. We need to talk. I'm keeping Jenny. You understand, right? 3 years. 3 years of being Ryan Mitchell's second choice, and he had the nerve to say she'd understand. The footsteps were quiet against the rain. Military precise. Deliberate. Emma didn't look up until the shadow fell across her, until that voice, rough silk and controlled violence, cut through her sobs like a blade through water. Who made you cry? It wasn't a question. It was a demand wrapped in an Italian accent thick enough to feel against her skin. She looked up. Alessandro Romano stood 3 feet away, perfectly tailored black suit somehow pristine despite the filthy alley, raindrops sliding off $2,000 fabric like even weather knew not to disrespect him. The serpent tattoo coiling up his neck seemed to move in the dim light from the street. Storm gray eyes locked onto her face with an intensity that made her forget her own name. Everyone in the restaurant whispered about Alessandro Romano. The man who owned half the city's establishments and all of its shadows. The one even hardened criminals crossed the street to avoid. And right now, those legendary eyes were fixed on Emma like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. No one, Emma whispered, but her voice cracked on both words. He stepped closer. Expensive cologne mixed with something indefinable, danger, maybe, or certainty. The kind of presence that changed the temperature of a room just by existing in it. Tell me his name, Bella, Alessandro said softly, and somehow the softness was more terrifying than shouting would have been. And I promise you, no one will ever hurt you again. Brothers, pay attention to what happens next. Because this moment. This is where everything changed. But to understand why a man like Alessandro Romano stopped for a crying waitress, we need to go back. Back to the beginning of Emma's shift, when she was still invisible. Still nobody. 6 hours earlier Emma Hayes was 27 years old and completely invisible. Not metaphorically invisible, though there was that too. Actually invisible. The kind of invisible where customers looked through you while demanding bread baskets. Where coworkers forgot your name despite working together for 3 years. Where you could stand in the middle of a crowded restaurant and no one would notice if you disappeared. She preferred it that way. Being noticed meant being vulnerable. Being vulnerable meant being hurt. Emma had learned that lesson early and learned it well. Her reflection in the employee bathroom mirror showed the evidence of careful invisibility, black dress pressed but 3 years old, minimal makeup, hair pulled back in a practical bun. Nothing flashy. Nothing memorable. Just another waitress in an upscale Italian restaurant where the customers spent more on appetizers than she made in a day. Her phone buzzed. Text from Mom. Doctor says we need the next treatment soon. I hate asking, sweetie, but... Emma didn't need to read the rest. She sent half her paycheck home every week to her mother's medical bills. The other half barely covered rent on her studio apartment in the worst part of town. There was nothing left for new shoes, new clothes, or new anything. She splashed water on her face and headed to the kitchen. Table 7 needs bread, Marco, the head waiter, snapped as he rushed past. He didn't look at her. He never did. Emma grabbed a basket and wove through the dining room, feet aching in shoes with holes in the soles hidden by inserts. The lunch rush was brutal, every table filled with people who belonged in this world of crystal glasses and $100 pasta dishes. Emma belonged in the margins. She'd made peace with that. Or so she told herself. She was refilling water glasses at table 12 when her phone buzzed again. She shouldn't check it during shift. Marco would write her up if he saw. But something about the insistent vibration made her duck into the service station and pull out her phone. Text from Ryan, can't do dinner tonight. Jenny needs help moving. You understand, right? Emma's hands went cold. Jenny. His ex-girlfriend. The one he'd sworn meant nothing. The one he'd promised was ancient history. This was the 8th time this month Ryan had cancelled plans for Jenny. 8 times Emma had swallowed her suspicion and told herself she was being paranoid. Told herself Ryan loved her. Told herself that 3 years together meant something. Her vision blurred. Not here. She couldn't cry here. Marco would fire her, and she couldn't afford to lose this job. Mom needed the money. Mom always needed the money. Emma. Marco's voice cracked like a whip. VIP section. Table 1. Now. Table 1. The table everyone whispered about. The one that was permanently reserved but rarely used. When it was used, the entire restaurant walked on eggshells. Emma shoved her phone in her apron pocket and grabbed the wine list. She'd served VIP tables before. Rich men with dead eyes and concealed weapons. Men who spoke in careful euphemisms and left tips that could feed a family for a month. Men who looked through you like furniture. She could handle this. She'd handled everything else. The VIP section was separated from the main dining room by a velvet curtain and soundproofing that made the space feel like another world. The moment Emma stepped through, the air pressure changed. Heavier. Charged. 4 men sat at the table, all in expensive suits, all radiating the kind of controlled violence that came from absolute certainty in their ability to destroy anything in their path. But Emma only saw one of them. Alessandro Romano sat at the head of the table like a king holding court. Younger than she expected, maybe 35, with sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, and dark hair styled with the kind of casual perfection that came from $500 haircuts. The serpent tattoo on his neck was vivid even in the dim light, scales seeming to shift as he breathed. But it was his eyes that made Emma's breath catch. Storm gray. Penetrating. They swept the room like a predator constantly assessing threats, calculating distances, measuring exits. Those eyes settled on Emma for exactly 2 seconds. She felt them like a physical touch. Then Alessandro returned to his conversation, speaking rapid Italian to the man on his right. Good evening, gentlemen. Emma's voice came out steadier than she felt. Professional smile firmly in place. I'm Emma. I'll be serving you this evening. Can I start you with wine? One of the men interrupted. He didn't look up from his phone. Pour and leave. Heat crept up Emma's neck. Not at the dismissal, she was used to that, but at the casual cruelty in his tone. Like she was less than human. She stepped forward, reaching for the bottle of 1998 Brunello someone had already opened for the table. $3,000 a bottle. More than her monthly rent. Her hands were still shaking from Ryan's text. She realized it too late. The bottle tilted in her grip, wine splashing across the white tablecloth in a spreading crimson stain. Emma's heart stopped. Every eye at the table turned toward her. I'm so sorry. She grabbed a napkin, trying desperately to blot the wine. I'll get a new bottle immediately. Dio mio, the man who'd spoken earlier muttered. Can't they hire competent staff? I apologize, sir. Emma's voice shook now. She couldn't help it. You'll bring your manager, he said coldly. This is unacceptable. The world tilted. Emma couldn't lose this job. She couldn't. Mom's next treatment was in 2 weeks. The rent was due in 5 days. She had $47 in her checking account. Please, Emma heard herself say. It was an accident. I'll pay for the wine. You'll pay. The man laughed, harsh and ugly. That bottle costs $3,000. You probably don't make that in a month. The number hit her like a fist to the stomach. He was right. She'd need 2 months of paychecks to cover it. 2 months of nothing sent home to mom. 2 months of choosing between food and electricity. That's enough, Luca. The voice was quiet. But it cut through Emma's panic like a church bell through fog. Alessandro Romano leaned back in his chair, gray eyes now fixed completely on Emma's face. He hadn't raised his voice. Hadn't moved beyond that small shift in posture. But suddenly every bit of attention in the room belonged to him. "Sir," Luca said uncertainly. "The wine," I said. "Enough." Alessandro's gaze never left Emma. "What's your name?" "Emma, sir." "Emma." He said it like he was tasting the syllables. Testing how they felt in his mouth. "You're shaking." It wasn't a question, but Emma answered anyway. "I'm sorry. It's been a difficult evening." Something flickered in those cold eyes. Not warmth. Emma suspected Alessandro Romano was incapable of warmth, but perhaps curiosity. "Get another bottle," he said. "And a clean glass for yourself." Emma blinked. I don't understand. I'm working. I can't, you look like you need a drink more than any of us." He gestured to the empty chair at the table. "Sit." "I really can't," Emma said quickly. "I'll get fired." "No one's firing you." The words were casual, but they carried absolute certainty. This was a man whose statements became reality simply because he'd spoken them. Emma believed him. Couldn't help but believe him. "Thank you," she managed. "But no. I should get back to work." For a long moment, Alessandro simply looked at her. Really looked. Not through her the way everyone else did, but at her. Seeing something Emma wasn't sure was there to see. Then he nodded slowly. "Go then." Emma fled. But as she pushed through the velvet curtain, she heard Alessandro's voice behind her, speaking in Italian to his men. Later, Emma would learn what he'd said in that moment. Find out everything about her. Everything. Emma spent the rest of her shift hyper-aware of Table 1. Every time she glanced toward the VIP section, Alessandro was there. Conducting business in low tones, making phone calls, signing papers his men brought him. And occasionally, she felt rather than saw it, those storm-gray eyes would find her across the restaurant. She told herself she was imagining it. Men like Alessandro Romano didn't notice women like her. She was furniture. Invisible. Except she didn't feel invisible anymore. Her phone buzzed 3 more times during the shift. All texts from Ryan. "Come on, Em. Don't be like this. You're being unreasonable." "Fine. If you're going to be a bitch about it, maybe we should take a break." Each message was a small knife between her ribs. But Emma kept smiling. Kept serving. Kept pretending everything was fine. That was her superpower, after all. Pretending. It was past midnight when Emma's shift finally ended. The restaurant had closed an hour ago, but Marco made her stay late to polish silverware as punishment for the wine incident. Never mind that Alessandro hadn't complained. Never mind that everything had been fine. Marco needed someone to punish, and Emma was convenient. She changed in the cramped employee bathroom, pulling on jeans and a worn sweater. Her phone showed 2 more texts from Ryan, but Emma didn't read them. Couldn't read them. If she read them, she'd have to admit what she already knew. Ryan Mitchell didn't love her. Maybe he never had. The back exit that led to the alley was faster than going through the main entrance, so Emma headed that way despite the late hour. She just wanted to get home. Crawl into bed. Pretend this entire day hadn't happened. The alley smelled like garbage and rain. Emma leaned against the brick wall, finally letting herself feel everything she'd been holding back. The exhaustion. The fear. The humiliation of having a customer laugh at her poverty. The devastating realization that she'd wasted 3 years on a man who was texting his real girlfriend while Emma paid for his dinners with tips from rich people who didn't know her name. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Ryan. "Seriously? You're really going to ignore me?" Grow up, Emma. That was it. The final thread holding her together snapped. Emma slid down the wall, rain-soaked and sobbing, phone clutched in her shaking hands. Great heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep and wounded. She was so tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being used. Tired of giving everything and receiving nothing. Tired of being alone. The footsteps were quiet. Professional. By the time Emma registered them, Alessandro Romano was already standing at the entrance to the alley, silhouetted against the streetlight like something from a film noir. Who made you cry? And that's where our story truly begins. Emma's head snapped up. Mascara streaked her cheeks. Rain plastered her hair to her skull. She looked, she knew, absolutely pathetic. Alessandro stepped closer, and Emma could see his expression now. Not the cold mask he'd worn in the restaurant. This was something else. Something darker. Something that promised violence to whoever had caused her tears. You shouldn't be here, Emma managed, wiping furiously at her face. Answer the question, Emma. The way he said her name, like he'd been practicing it. Like it mattered. It's nothing, she said. Just, boyfriend problems. He made you cry. Not a question. A statement of fact that demanded confirmation. Alessandro moved closer still, until he was only a few feet away. This close, Emma could see details, the faint scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the way his hands were scarred across the knuckles despite his expensive suit, the absolute stillness he maintained even while radiating coiled violence. Tell me his name, Alessandro said quietly. Why? Emma whispered. Why do you care? The question seemed to genuinely surprise him. His head tilted slightly, as if she'd asked something in a foreign language. I don't like seeing women cry, he finally said. I'm fine. Really? I should go. You're not fine. His hand reached out, slowly, giving her time to pull away, and his thumb brushed away a tear from her cheek. The gesture was shockingly tender from a man who radiated such danger. Tell me what he did, Alessandro said. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way he looked at her like she actually mattered. But Emma found herself talking. He's still in love with his ex. Has been our whole relationship. I knew it, I think I always knew, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to be alone again. Her laugh was bitter. Stupid, right? I work 2 jobs to make rent, send money home to my mom who's sick, and he can't even show up when he promises because he's with her. With Jenny. And I'm just. Her voice cracked. I'm just the idiot who keeps waiting. Alessandro's jaw tightened. A muscle jumped in his cheek. His name, Bella. Why? What are you going to do? Whatever is necessary to make sure he never makes you cry again. The words should have frightened her. This was Alessandro Romano. The man people whispered about in fearful tones. The Mafia boss whose name alone made hardened criminals nervous. But Emma didn't feel afraid. She felt protected. Ryan, she whispered. Ryan Mitchell. Alessandro pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. His thumbs moved with surprising speed. After a moment, he pocketed the phone and looked at Emma with those devastating gray eyes. Here's what's going to happen, he said quietly. You're going to go home. Tomorrow, your boyfriend, ex-boyfriend now, is going to realize he made a mistake. He will apologize. He will grovel. And you will walk away with your head high. Capice? I don't understand. You don't need to. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, pressing it into her palm. His fingers were warm despite the rain. This is my personal number. If he bothers you, if anyone bothers you, you call me immediately. Emma stared at the card. Heavy cardstock. Embossed lettering. Alessandro Romano, and a phone number. Mr. Romano, Alessandro. His voice was velvet over steel. And I meant what I said, Emma. No one will hurt you again. Not while you're under my protection. But I'm nobody. Why would you? You're not nobody. The intensity in his eyes made her shiver despite herself. Now go. My driver will take you home. I can't accept, it wasn't a request. He gestured toward a black SUV parked at the end of the alley, engine running. Go home, Bella. Sleep. Tomorrow will be better. I promise you. Emma wanted to argue. Wanted to ask why the most dangerous man in the city was being kind to her. But the weight of the entire day crashed over her, and suddenly all she wanted was to be home. She nodded and walked toward the SUV on shaky legs. She looked back once. Alessandro was still standing in the alley, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. Even from a distance, she could hear the command in his voice. The promise of violence barely restrained. Emma clutched his business card and climbed into the SUV, not knowing that her life had just changed forever. But knowing, somehow knowing, that she believed him. No one would hurt her again. The next morning Emma woke to pounding on her apartment door. Sunlight streamed through her thin curtains. Her phone showed 11 a.m. She'd slept through both alarms. The pounding continued. Emma. Baby, please. I need to talk to you. Ryan. Emma dragged herself out of bed and opened the door a crack, chain still engaged. Ryan looked terrible. Unshaven, eyes wild, clothes wrinkled like he'd slept in them. Or hadn't slept at all. Emma, thank God. I'm so sorry. I'm such an idiot. It's over with Jenny, I swear. Stop, Emma said quietly. No, please, just listen. We're done, Ryan. His face crumpled. You don't mean that. Come on, we've been together 3 years. 3 years where I was never your first choice. Emma's voice was steady now. Strengthened by the memory of Alessandro's words. His promise. I deserve better than that. I'll change. I promise I'll. Goodbye, Ryan. She closed the door. Engaged the deadbolt. He kept knocking. Kept pleading. For 5 minutes his voice filtered through the door, increasingly desperate. Then his phone must have rung, because Emma heard him answer it. Pause. Who is this? How did you get this number? Another pause. Emma pressed her ear to the door. I don't know what you're talking about, Ryan said, but there was fear in his voice now. Real fear. I wasn't, okay. Okay. Jesus. I'm leaving. Yes. Right now. I understand. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. The building's front door slammed. Emma waited in silence. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Is he gone? Emma stared at the message. Then slowly typed back, yes. Thank you. 3 dots appeared immediately. You're having lunch with me. Driver will be there in 20 minutes. Emma's first instinct was to refuse. This was crazy. She didn't know Alessandro Romano. He was dangerous. Powerful. Moved in a world completely opposite to hers. But her fingers typed, okay. 20 minutes later, Emma climbed into the same black SUV from last night. The driver said nothing, just drove through the city to a part of town Emma recognized only from magazines. Towering glass buildings. Designer boutiques. Restaurants where reservations were booked months in advance. The SUV stopped in front of a restaurant with no sign. Just an unmarked door and a doorman in a suit that probably cost more than Emma's car. The driver opened Emma's door. Mr. Romano is waiting inside, Mississippi. Emma's heart hammered as she walked through the door. The interior was stunning. Exposed brick and dim lighting. The kind of elegant simplicity that screamed wealth louder than gold fixtures ever could. Every table was empty except one. Alessandro stood when she entered. Today he wore a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been sculpted directly onto his body. His hair was slightly damp like he'd recently showered. The serpent tattoo seemed to move in the low light. Emma. He pulled out a chair. Sit. Please. She sat, feeling completely out of place in her jeans and simple blouse. Is this your restaurant? Emma asked. One of them. Alessandro gestured and immediately a waiter appeared with wine and water. Like magic. Like the world bent itself around Alessandro's desires. You look better, Alessandro said. Less sad. I broke up with Ryan this morning. Thank you for, whatever you did. I simply explained to him that continuing to bother you would be unwise for his health. Alessandro's voice was casual, but the threat underneath was clear as crystal. Emma should have been disturbed. Instead, she felt something warm unfurl in her chest. When was the last time someone had protected her? Why are you doing this? Emma asked softly. I'm nobody special. You could have any woman you wanted. Why, you think I want you because you're convenient? Alessandro's eyes flashed. You think this is about sex? I don't know what this is about. He leaned forward. That intensity again. That feeling of being the only thing in the world that mattered. Last night, I watched you work for 4 hours, Alessandro said. You smiled at customers who didn't bother to learn your name. You helped the bus boy when he dropped a tray, even though it wasn't your job. When that child at table 12 spilled juice, you cleaned it up and made her laugh so she wouldn't cry. Emma blinked. You saw all that? I see everything, Bella. His voice dropped lower. And what I saw was a woman who gives everything to everyone around her and gets nothing in return. A woman who cries alone in alleys because she's too proud to burden anyone else with her pain. That's just, being an adult. That's being used. Alessandro reached across the table and took her hand. His palm was warm, calloused despite the expensive suits and manicures. I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things that would make you run screaming. But I protect what's mine. And last night, when you looked at me with those tears in your eyes, something in me decided you were mine to protect. Emma's heart raced. I can't be yours. I don't even know you. Then get to know me. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending electricity up her arm. Have lunch with me today. Dinner tomorrow. Let me show you what it's like when someone actually takes care of you for a change. People will talk. I work at your restaurant. You work for me now. Different restaurant. Better pay. Flexible hours so you can help your mother. At her shocked expression, he smiled slightly. I told you. I see everything. Alessandro, this is crazy. Yes, it is. He lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to her knuckles that sent electricity straight through her core. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you spilled that wine. Since I saw your hands shake and knew someone had hurt you. I'm not letting you go, Emma. Not unless you tell me you truly want me to. Emma knew she should say no. Should run. This man was dangerous. Commanding. Overwhelming. But when was the last time she'd felt this alive? Okay, she whispered. Let's have lunch. Alessandro's smile was devastating. Good. Now tell me about your mother. And then I want to hear about every dream you've put aside to take care of everyone else. Because Bella, we're going to make those dreams happen. And despite every logical reason she had to be afraid, Emma found herself believing him. 3 weeks later Emma stood in Alessandro's penthouse overlooking the city, wearing a dress that cost more than her entire previous wardrobe combined. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city lights like stars fallen to earth. Her mother's medical bills were paid in full. Every single treatment covered. Emma had a new job managing one of Alessandro's legitimate businesses, an art gallery, where she actually used her abandoned art history degree. She had a closet full of clothes that fit properly. Shoes without holes. And every evening, Alessandro came home to her. It should have been perfect. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was living on borrowed time. She'd learned more about Alessandro's world in 3 weeks than she'd wanted to know. The midnight phone calls in rapid Italian. The meetings with men who made her skin crawl. The way he sometimes came home with blood on his knuckles that he'd wash off before kissing her hello. She was in love with a man who lived in darkness. "You're thinking too loud." Alessandro's voice came from behind her. Emma turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, jacket gone, sleeves rolled up. Even exhausted, he was beautiful. Dangerous and beautiful. "Just wondering when I'm going to wake up," Emma said softly. "This isn't a dream, Bella." He crossed to her and pulled her into his arms. She fit perfectly against his chest. "You're really here. You're really mine." "Am I?" The question slipped out before Emma could stop it. "Or am I just another thing you own?" Alessandro pulled back, gray eyes searching her face. "What's wrong?" "I'm scared," Emma admitted. "Scared of how fast this is moving. Scared of your world. Scared of what it means that I'm falling in love with you." His hands cupped her face with devastating gentleness. "You think I'm not scared?" "Dio, Emma. I've never felt like this. Never wanted to come home before. Never wanted to hear about someone's day or hold them while they sleep. You've undone me completely. But your life is dangerous." "Yes." He didn't lie to her. He never had. "But I will never let that danger touch you. I swear it on my life." "You can't promise that." "I can. I have." Alessandro's jaw tightened. "My enemies know that harming you means war. Total war. No one is stupid enough to try." Emma wanted to believe him. But before she could respond, his phone rang. Alessandro glanced at the screen and his expression hardened into something cold and lethal. "I have to take this." He stepped away, speaking rapid Italian. Emma caught only a few words. "Traditore. Adesso. Uccidai. Traitor. Now. Kill." When he ended the call, his face was a mask of cold fury. "I have to go. There's a situation." "What kind of situation?" "The kind where men die." He grabbed his jacket. "Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." Fear spiked through Emma. "Alessandro," he kissed her. Hard and desperate. "I love you, Bella. Remember that. Whatever happens, remember I love you." Then he was gone, leaving Emma standing alone in the penthouse with her heart in her throat. Hours passed. Emma tried to distract herself with television, with reading, with anything. But her mind kept replaying Alessandro's words. Whatever happens. Like he might not come back. At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Emma Hayes?" A woman's voice. Cold and efficient. "You need to come to St. Mary's Hospital. Alessandro Romano has been injured." The world tilted. "How bad?" "Come now." The line went dead. Emma's hands shook as she called the driver Alessandro had assigned to her. 20 minutes later she was racing through hospital corridors, following signs to the emergency wing. She burst through doors to find chaos. Men in suits, armed and tense. And sitting on a gurney, shirt torn and bloody, was Alessandro. "Bella." Relief flooded his face when he saw her. "You're okay." "Thank God." Emma ran to him. I'm okay. You're the one covered in blood. Most of it isn't mine. He winced as she touched his side. Broken ribs. Bullet grazed me. I'll live. What happened? Ambush. Someone leaked our location. His eyes darkened. They were targeting me. But they knew about you. Knew I'd be distracted worrying about your safety. Emma's blood ran cold. So they tried to kill you because of me? No. Alessandro grabbed her hand. They tried to kill me because I'm in a dangerous business. You're not responsible for, I'm a weakness. The realization crashed over her. You said yourself they'd use me to hurt you. I can't do this. She pulled away, tears streaming. I can't be the reason you die. I can't watch you come home bloody and wonder if next time you won't come home at all. So what are you saying? Alessandro's voice was tight with pain. And not the physical kind. I'm saying I love you too much to be your weakness. Emma's voice broke. I'm saying maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we need to stop. Alessandro stood, ignoring his injuries. Listen to me. I've been in this life for 15 years. I've been shot, stabbed, betrayed, targeted more times than I can count. And I survived all of it. Alone and angry and empty. Then you walked into my restaurant with sadness in your eyes, and I felt alive for the first time. But, no. He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. You're not my weakness, Bella. You're my strength. You're the reason I want to survive. The reason I'm making plans to transition out of the dangerous parts of my business. The reason I wake up every morning and think maybe I can be better than what my father was. You're leaving the Mafia. Emma whispered. Carefully. It'll take years. His thumb brushed away her tears. But yes. Because I want a future where I don't come home bleeding. Where you don't have to be afraid every time I leave. Where maybe someday we have children who never know what their father used to do. Emma's breath caught. Children? Yes. Alessandro smiled. Soft and devastating. Many of them. All with your beautiful eyes and my stubborn personality. They'll drive you crazy. You already drive me crazy, Emma said, but she was smiling through her tears now. Is that a yes? You didn't ask a question. Alessandro lowered himself painfully to one knee. Emma gasped. Alessandro, your ribs, Zita, woman. I'm proposing. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring that caught the fluorescent hospital lights and threw rainbow prisms across the floor. Emma Hayes. You walked into my life and made me want to be a man worthy of your smile. Marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life making sure you never cry from sadness again. Let me protect you and cherish you and prove every single day that you made the right choice. You're proposing in a hospital, Emma said, laughing and crying at once. I'm Italian. We're dramatic. His eyes turned serious. But I mean every word, Bella. No one will ever hurt you again. I promise. Emma looked at this dangerous, impossible man kneeling before her despite his injuries. The man who'd seen her crying and decided she deserved protection. Who'd paid her mother's medical bills without asking for anything in return. Who wanted to leave behind his dark world just to build a bright future with her. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Alessandro surged up, wincing, and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. Ti amo, Emma. Oggi e domani e sempre. I love you too, Emma whispered. She slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Alessandro always knew exactly what she needed. But if you ever get shot again, I'm going to kill you myself. His laugh was warm against her skin. Deal. Now let's go home. Home. With Alessandro Romano. The most dangerous man in the city, who'd become the safest place she'd ever known. 2 years later Emma stood in the art gallery she now owned, a wedding gift from Alessandro on their 1-year anniversary. She was curating a new exhibition featuring emerging artists from underprivileged backgrounds. Providing opportunities she'd never had when she was young and struggling. Her phone buzzed with a photo from Alessandro. He was at one of his legitimate businesses, a construction company that built affordable housing, holding up blueprints and grinning like a kid. The serpent tattoo on his neck was the only hint of his former life. Come home early today. I made dinner. Yes, actual food, not just ordering from the restaurant. Your husband who loves you, Emma smiled and typed back, can't wait. Love you, Mr. Romano. The gallery door opened. A young woman walked in. Early 20s, nervous energy, worn clothes that were clean but old. She reminded Emma of herself not so long ago. Can I help you? Emma asked warmly. I'm looking for work. Any work. I know this is an art gallery, but I'm good at cleaning, organizing, whatever you need. The girl's voice shook. Please. I really need a job. Emma saw herself in those desperate eyes. Saw the girl she used to be. Alone and afraid and working herself to exhaustion just to survive. What's your name? Emma asked gently. Grace. Grace Parker. Well, Grace, it turns out I need an assistant curator. Someone to help with inventory, event planning, artist relations. Emma smiled. The pay is good and the hours are flexible. Interested? Grace's eyes filled with tears. Are you serious? Completely. Emma handed her a business card. Come by tomorrow at 10. We'll discuss details. And Grace? The girl looked up. Whatever you're going through right now, it gets better. I promise. After Grace left, Emma stood in her gallery and thought about the impossible journey that had brought her here. From crying in an alley to building a life full of love and purpose. From believing she was nobody to knowing she was cherished beyond measure. Her phone buzzed again. Another photo from Alessandro. This time of their bedroom where he'd spread rose petals and lit candles. Forgot to mention I have plans for you tonight, Bella. Wear that red dress. Your increasingly impatient husband. Emma laughed and grabbed her keys. She had a life to get home to. A life she'd built with a man who'd promised no one would hurt her again and had spent every day since proving he meant it. As she locked the gallery door and headed home, Emma sent one last text. On my way. And Alessandro? Thank you for keeping your promise. The reply came instantly. Oggi, domani, sempre. Today, tomorrow, always. Ti amo. Emma believed him. Epilogue, a message for you brothers, listen. Emma's story isn't special because she met a rich man. It's special because she finally met someone who saw her value. Someone who protected without controlling. Someone who built her up instead of tearing her down. Maybe you're the Alessandro in someone's life. The one who sees potential everyone else misses. Use that power right. Protect. Uplift. Build. Maybe you're the Emma. Invisible, exhausted, giving everything to people who don't appreciate it. Brother, you're worth more than that. Set boundaries. Choose yourself. Walk away from anyone who makes you feel like you're nobody. Or maybe, just maybe, you're the Ryan. Wasting something precious because you can't decide what you want. It's not too late to be better. But you have to choose. Choose now. This story ends here. But yours? Yours is still being written. No one will ever hurt you again. Starting with yourself. Make better choices. Be the protector. Be the one who sees worth where others see nothing. Be the Alessandro, not the Ryan. And remember, you're stronger than you think. You're more valuable than you believe. You deserve someone who sees that. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories that remind us what we're capable of. Until next time, stay strong, brothers. Today, tomorrow, always.